Good morning. Welcome to Coffee and Conversations. My name is Jason Goodson. I'm here with Johnny Taylor, and this is Memorial Day. Hello.
Hello.
Memorial Day. This is May 31st, Memorial Day. Excited to come to you today, and we're going to share some thoughts about life. We're going to share some thoughts about Memorial Day as well as we get going here. There's a few interesting facts about Memorial Day that I've read this morning in history. A few things about it. First of all, the first Memorial Day was on May 30th, 1868, and it was called Decoration Day. And I think the reason for being Decoration Day was that they were adorning the tombs with flowers.
Yeah, the graves of the different
Graves.
soldiers.
With flowers and possibly flags at that point. I know that a lot of our streets today will be, you could drive down our main road here in Mineola, Texas and see the American flags waving and through many houses today. And interesting. John Logan was the first one to pretty much, he was a general and wanted to mend the relationship between the North and the South in the Civil War. And I believe he was a Confederate.
I think so.
Yeah, I think that was the deal. And then so there was a kind of a Memorial Day for all the soldiers there who had passed on, and pretty much every soldier that's passed on since. And we just want to take a few moments to remember those guys who have served and who have fought and who have died to give us our freedom here in America, and who have continued to fight today. And those who are in war right now, we're remembering those people, and just take a few moments today and pray for those folks who are fighting for our freedoms here. It's pretty interesting. My brother-in-law Dennis fought in the first Gulf War.
Yeah.
And I remember for myself thinking about his being gone during that time, Memorial Days, and how different it was to remember, that there was actually, somebody fighting in a war that I knew personally. And there still is today people who are overseas who are fighting, that we all know, that the listeners, and you may have family members who are fighting or who have fought or have died, and we want to.
Yeah, my dad was on the destroyer USS Claxton in World War II, and then my brother was in the Army during Vietnam, but he never had to go to Vietnam.
Right.
So.
Right. Very cool. Well, we just want to say thank you to all those guys who have fought, who are fighting today, and we want to remember those who have died as well. So, yeah, interesting day today. We were kind of sitting here thinking about, what's on the schedule for today. It's a pretty relaxing day. Most Memorial Days are. I think for our families, it's usually a time where people get together and they'll cook out and just spend family time. And we still wanted to get together and share some thoughts on today. And there's a few things we want to talk about. A couple of birthdays we want to give out today as well. Lucas Dubs, the mighty Mucus.
That boy has more nicknames.
Lucas Dubs is 16 years old today.
Oh, no, he's going to get his driver's license. Just thought about that.
He won't get it to. We've been having some serious discussions about his getting his driver's license, and he still has to take his driver's course that everyone has to take in Texas before they can get their license. So he's taking the homeschool version of it, and so, anyways, we'll see how that works out for him.
Yeah.
Then he's got to take the test. Then he can get his license. So, but he's got a truck. He's pretty excited about it. So.
Oh yeah.
So happy birthday, Lucas. Happy birthday to Anna Hayes. If you can hear us today, happy birthday to you. And yeah, Lucas is going to go to camp with us. Get fired up to go to camp too.
We're down to less than 2 weeks away.
Less than 2 weeks.
Week and a half.
I can't believe it's already that.
It's
close.
here.
Man, No
It
wonder I'm
is
so
here.
tired. I got Vacation Bible School the first of that week too. I must have been thinking, what am I
You're
thinking?
out of your mind.
But this is, I will say this is the first year we've done Vacation Bible School for 3 days on a Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. You know,
That ought to be good.
I
Kids
think
will enjoy it. They
it'll
won't
be-
get tired of it before it's over
right?
with. And
It'll be a, I think it'll be a good, good experience all the way around. Because Wednesday night, we're going to do something a little different that Wednesday night. We're going to bring the families in
yeah.
to the church and do their final service that night and do all the recognition, and that way everybody can come.
Does that mean you've got Vacation Bible School next Monday morning, right?
Right.
So we won't do podcast
That's
on
next
Monday
Monday
morning.
morning.
Maybe
Maybe Monday
afternoon.
evening or Monday
Something.
afternoon. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I didn't think about that. Yeah. So is life when summer hits.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a
It's going to
busy
be a
summer.
busy summer. It's going to be a hot one here in Texas.
Oh my goodness, it's supposed to be 96 degrees Saturday and Friday, I think, and
Are you serious?
I'll be out reading water meters in the sun. So, for you that don't know, I read water meters to pay the bills 2 days a week. So, God has provided a very nice job there that fits in with our schedule really well, and
Right.
really appreciative of that.
Yeah, it's a good thing. I want to share with you a quote from Facebook, and
There's going to be trouble.
and there's going to be trouble with this quote in Facebook, and we may hear about this trouble real soon. However, I want to make a few comments on these statements, and the statement is, what do you think of these statements? That's the question. God just needs a few good men, and I want you to earn that star in your crown. Does that make your skin crawl or what?
Well, just considering the fact that Jesus told the rich young ruler that there was nobody good but him, so I guess he's out of luck.
Oh man, it just those two statements right there just show you the condition of a lot of people's hearts, and a lot of people of what they're thinking that will be good, and what makes them sound good as well. And that too, just, you know, I mean, how do you respond to that other than to say, you know what, none of us are good. Romans 3 explicitly points out to the fact God just needs a few good men. Well, there's no good men on the earth.
No.
There's no good women. No offense. I don't want to leave anybody out, by the way. And if we claim that we have good, then that means that we have some kind of power to make ourselves good. And last I checked, I think that's wrong. Yeah, and man, if we can earn a star in that crown, man, that's going to be some big crown. I mean, to be able to have a supernova
Yeah.
in that crown, that's going to be.
Yeah. Yep. You mean it's not one of the little paste on stars like you get in Sunday school?
The little gold one. You've attended Sunday school every week for the past 8 months. Here's your star on the crown.
Yeah.
Oh goodness.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Which that makes me think about something that I think we're going to discuss next week. And I was thinking about throwing out this statement here, and if people want to write us and respond to it, so we have more to think about and whatever. But what do you think?
Go for it.
I posted a thing on my Facebook status the other day. I wanted to see what kind of reaction I got to it, and I'm going to share it here, and it's probably what we're going to discuss somewhat next week. So I'm going to share it now so you can be thinking about it, and if you want to, you can email us about it or message us about it on Facebook, whatever. And I said this. I said, if you found out tonight that you were going to die tomorrow, and that made you wish you had lived today differently, then that means you have not done what he had for you to do today.
Right.
And then I put two verses. One was John 6:3-8. For I have come down from heaven not to do my own will, but the will of him who sent me. And then John 17:18. As you sent me into the world, I also have sent them into the world. Uh, I've sent this out to the guys and got a couple of responses and stuff, but we're gonna save that for next week and kind of discuss that. And
Right.
I'm not gonna tell you any direction on it, but just see what you think about that.
All right.
How does that make you feel? The old line from counseling.
What's bubbling on the inside? Is that the one?
No, what you always were taught in counseling is never to ask yes or no questions, and the main question is, how does that make you
Oh,
feel?
that's right. I should have remembered that.
You should.
I don't know why I didn't.
Oh. So anyway, that's next week.
Can I tell a camp story real fast?
Go for it.
My first experience at camp at Lake Forest Ranch was a pretty interesting experience. My first night as a counselor in
Yeah, I was going to say you need to tell how long ago this was.
95
because
or 96. I can't remember which year it was.
nowadays you couldn't do this.
Yeah, right. But the story goes, and I don't even remember the camper's name or what,
It's just a long time
it's just
ago.
a long time ago. And
Junior
anyways,
camper, that's the only thing you need to know about the camper.
my first night in cabin 18, in the old cabin, which is not standing anymore, by the way, out there, but there's a sad pause in my heart over that. However, what the facilities they have there now are just incredible. So, anyways, the old cabin 18, first night in, I'm scared to death. Number one, because I'm overseeing 10 8-year-olds.
Instant family.
Instant like amoeba. I mean, I walked around that camp that week with 10 8-year-olds on my legs.
Yep.
I felt like the bulldog and the chihuahua,
It's
jumping over.
interesting that 8 years olds understand community.
It is, isn't it? I mean, they didn't want to leave the area. Anyways, I didn't understand community back then at all. It's our first night in at camp. Get all the kids to sleep. They're in bed. I'm so excited I've made it that far without any problems. And this is like the first 6 hours in. And we're in bed, and there's a thunderstorm rolling in. Now, thunderstorms and 8-year-olds just don't mix very well.
Especially not in cabins out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, where trees are, like...
And no parents.
Yeah. I've got a couple of camp stories I could tell about thunderstorms, but I'll spare you. Anyways, this first night, I get a tap on my shoulder right in the middle of one of the thunderstorms. Young man says, in his little 8-year-old voice, "I'm scared." He says, "I'm very scared." I was like, oh, I guess so. A heart of compassion goes out to him, and I was like, well, he goes, he wanted to know if he could, basically just bunk up with me in the bed. And I said, well, okay, we'll go head to toe, and of course it's acceptable and everything. And plus our beds were a little bigger than everything. So I put him on one end, I was on the other end. Okay, he'll be safe. And I was like, oh no, this will work fine. We both went back to sleep. And then about, I don't know, an hour later, I hear this boom. Kid falls from the top bunk, hits the floor, busts his head open. So I'm dealing with that. Probably about an hour later, after dealing with all that, having to get the nurse and, having to get Shanda, I guess, was the time. And so, anyways, they get that all patched up. He gets back into bed. Everything. I walk back to my bed, and it's empty. The kid has gotten up from the bed and gone back up and gotten to the bunk. Well,
Rejoice,
because, all right, he must be over it. The storm has passed. Everything's great. I get into my bunk and settle in to a nice, warm puddle of urine. He has peed in my bed.
Think it not strange.
So after having to get into my bed and removing, my sheets that I never saw again, I don't think after that, and I had a graceful female counselor who gave up a second set of sheets I don't think she ever saw again either. But I'd end up having to take a shower, and I was just thinking my time in the shower, just going, "Oh my gosh, this is what this is going to be like. I'm not going to make it." However, that was the first experience at camp, Lake Forest Ranch, that I ever had.
Oh, and for moms who are listening that are horrified, the
Yeah.
bunks now have rails on them.
The bunks have rails, and the counselors are in their own little. They're in the same area, but they're it's very safe, and there's none of that going on. It's like one of those things where you just feel bad for the kid.
Yeah.
There were several situations that summer where I can remember one in particular. He's the biggest guy I know now. He's like he's like bigger than big. He's larger than large.
Yeah.
He's a manster. But when he came to camp, he was I believe that their first trip into from Columbus, he might have been in 5th or 6th grade, and thunderstorm came through, and he just lit up. I just went crazy, and I had to go console him. And now he could probably like pick me up with one finger and put me over his head. He's a man mountain. Anyways, I digress. As often as I do.
That may be the theme of our podcast today, is digressing.
Yeah. So, anyways, I've had some interesting moments like that, and thought I would share that as well. We have enjoyed the comments we've been getting
Yes.
from folks. We want to thank you so much for sending in your thoughts, and please continue to do so. And we enjoy reading. We're doing our best to answer those and to get back. A lot of responses. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say, we know what we're thinking when we say something,
Right.
but we're not always sure it comes across that way to somebody who doesn't know what we're thinking. So it's
Right.
good to hear,
Right. It's good to hear responses.
yeah, and see if we're actually people are actually hearing what we're thinking in our heads. So.
And most of the time, you don't want to go there with
No,
us.
you really don't want to know what's in our head, but
Yeah. One of the guys that has commented before in the past and has given some good insight has really come across and given some more insight as well. On our past podcast, last week we talked about Pharaoh. We talked about the children of Israel specifically being caught between the Red Sea and the Egyptian army,
but being right in God's will, right in the midst of it.
right in the middle of God's will. And Pharaoh, interestingly enough, has seen and he has been a part of this displaying of God's power. In the midst of the junk that they had been dealing with, and the plagues were not we always see the plagues, and we don't ever think about the devastating power of those plagues and what it caused and how nasty it was.
It's just a Sunday school Bible story to us because we've heard it so many times if you went to
Right.
church all your life.
But man, if we were to place ourselves in those situations, it would not be pretty. I just can't imagine how that looks. In some sense, we've been plagued with things, but when you see, like, if you were to see frogs that covered the ground,
Yeah.
and just think about that. That's just
That's
a
just
general
nasty.
one. Overall, those frogs probably ended up dying
And
in the
then stinking.
process and stinking and having to remove
Clean them up,
that.
shovel
And
frogs.
Just imagine.
What do you do with all of them? And the river turns to blood. That affected the
if
Hebrews.
yeah, absolutely.
That affected everybody when it turned to blood
Right.
because that was pretty much the drinking water.
That was a source. Yeah, for that area, and it watered the plants. It did. Just
And if you've ever smelled blood, it does not smell good in quantity.
no.
I haven't smelled human blood in quantity, but deer blood or something like that, cow blood, it does not smell good. And you imagine a whole river of it in the middle of the summer.
Right. It just
Pretty nasty.
pretty nasty stuff. You're right.
And think about this. We're dealing with Pharaoh there, but there's a whole nation of Egypt there.
Right.
A whole nation of families that have no choice but to follow him. They're just as in bondage to him as the Hebrew children. They may have more rights than the Hebrew children, but
Right.
think about the parents who are sitting there and knowing they lost their firstborn child because Pharaoh wouldn't let the children of Israel go,
Right.
and they can't say anything.
Right. Had nothing to do with it. Yeah.
Wonder what they were thinking. Because there wasn't just Pharaoh there. There
Right.
was lots of people.
There were lots of people. Yeah. Egyptians and
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
Egyptians have lived through all these plagues, and they know what's going on.
right. I mean,
So,
and I liked what Mark had to say in his response.
yeah,
And really thought this was an interesting point of view about Pharaoh. It says this that let me find that there. It says it was a plague. It was in the plague that Pharaoh would soften or pause regarding his disobedience, and that God, by removing the plagues, directed the mechanism to harden Pharaoh's heart. It's as if mercy, wonderful as it is what hardened Pharaoh's heart because of who Pharaoh is. It is true in our own lives that when the heat is on, we see the things of God most clearly, even though we desire those difficult circumstances the least. And wouldn't the man be blessed that could endure such difficult things because he can see God more clearly and become more dependent and find obedience in the sufferings to the reward of the kingdom? I just love that right there.
oh yeah, good stuff.
Because you do see the vulnerability of who, I mean, if you think about it and you go back and you read Exodus and you read specifically the section of the plagues where he is taking him, and continually God shows up and offers his mercy to Pharaoh through Moses, going, hey, let the people go, and here's what's going to happen. This will all go away. But it's as if through that opportunity, his heart was hardened.
Yeah.
His heart was taken to a place of probably being angered
Yeah,
because his pride.
it's amazing the things pride gets us into.
Because he was not just some schmo king. He was
No, he was
the
the
man.
most powerful man on earth at that point.
He was the man. And the interesting thing is, it probably has shown that he was. It would have shown that he was less of a man.
Yep.
Nobody wants to be less of a man. Interesting, isn't it? I love that.
Yep.
The whole.
Not willing to take a look at who he really was.
Yeah.
At least in the comparison to God. Lots of things.
Lots of things. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you think about this. I mean, Job is the perfect example of what Mark said here.
Mm-hmm.
In the midst of his suffering, he came to see God rather than just knowing about God.
Right.
And it took the suffering to bring that on. And he's saying that, and when Job said, before I'd heard of God, but now I see him with my eyes,
Mm-hmm.
he's saying that before God restored everything.
Wow.
Everything's still gone,
Right.
and he's saying that.
Still saying that. Right.
And then God restored everything to him.
It's amazing how we see that differently, though.
Yeah.
In the midst of that, when we're going through our junk and through our battles and through the things that God is, I believe, is putting us in the midst of His will when we go through these things.
Yeah.
Um,
But, all these things, all this stuff out here we suffer from, that's not life.
right.
It may be what's going on, but life is knowing God.
Mm-hmm.
This stuff over here, this is just circumstances.
Right.
And people worry, well, my kids are having to go through this. I wish things
Right.
were better. Well, do you want them to know God and have life, or do you want them to have a cushy life?
Right.
So, what's more important here?
hopefully it's to know God and have life. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
that's what's best for them.
Right.
So anyway,
Well, um, what are your thoughts? What are you thinking about that? I mean, in the sense of, to the listener, um, what comes across your mind? You thinking about being Pharaoh, being in the midst of all the circumstances that were shown to him, and how would we respond to that? What's our, I mean, not only how would we respond, but if we were the people in the midst of the city, in the midst of the nation there that was witnessing this, whether you're a Hebrew or Egyptian, there was probably, different aspects of what was going on. And being a Hebrew, of course they wanted out of the slavery, but they go back and you see how they responded, because they were like, well, we would just rather had stayed in Egypt.
yeah, it's funny. They had the opposite
Continued
reaction.
But
Instead of repenting before God when things got tough and saying, God, if you don't do something,
yeah,
Pharaoh realized God's power more so than they did most of the
I
time.
bet I think so. I think that's an interesting thing.
Because when things got tough on him, he kind of repented of what he was doing.
Although I found it interesting, he never he it's like he was willing to allow certain sections of the people to go instead of just letting. And Moses kept coming back and saying, no, unless we all go,
Yeah.
Well, we're going to go out and worship and then come back, and
Yeah.
it's always as if, no, you can just take the men and go worship, then come back,
Yeah.
not the women and the children. I don't know. That's kind of
It's a
interesting.
way to hold on to him.
Right. It's so interesting to me because he didn't want to give up. The ones they were the labor force.
Yep.
They provided the bricks to his kingdom.
And building all the monuments and stuff
Yeah,
to him,
exactly. Yeah, they put together everything.
which the free people probably wasn't going to do.
Right. It was labor for sure. Well, and behold, came teacher saying, "What must I do to have eternal life?" And he said to them, "Why do you ask me about what is good? There is only one who is good, and if you would enter life, keep the commandments." He said to him, "Which ones?" And Jesus said, "You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, and you shall not bear false witness. Honor your father and your mother, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself." The young man said to him, "All these I have kept. What do I still lack?" And Jesus said to him, "If you would be perfect, go, sell what you possess, and give to the poor, and you will have a treasure in heaven, and come follow me." When the young man heard this, he went away sorrowful, for he had great possessions. And Jesus said to the disciples, "Truly I say to you, only with difficulty will a rich person enter the kingdom of heaven. And again I tell you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of the needle than for a rich person to enter the kingdom of God." I guess he was working for a star in his crown.
Oh yeah. It's,
No.
it's interesting how Jesus approached this because he said, if you would be perfect,
Right.
then do all these things.
Right.
And Jesus knew he can't do all these things.
Right.
So Jesus is saying, you can't be perfect.
Right.
That's what the guy was trying for. I mean, Jesus started him out and said, keep all the commandments. And then the guy says, which ones? That's kind of a stupid response. He said, all the commandments? It's like, do you not understand the meaning of all?
Right.
But which ones?
Which one? It's interesting. Pharaoh had, he had this idea of all this, and of course, seeing the plagues of God displayed his power, displayed everything. And showed this, oh my gosh, this is true, this is real. But yet he didn't want to give up what he had.
Exactly.
Because he knew that what he had was comfortable for him.
Yeah.
In the midst of all that. But that's what hardened his heart the most, was having to give up everything and be dependent. Yeah.
Well, see, that's the thing with the rich young ruler here. Jesus wasn't telling him, well, get all your ducks in a row. Mm-mm. He wasn't telling him you need to give away all your riches. What he was trying to make him see was the stuff you're valuing has absolutely no value.
No value at all.
There's only one thing that's valuable.
That's me.
Yep.
That's what he's. Well, not
That's
me.
what he's getting at.
That's Christ speaking of himself, not Jason
Yeah.
speaking of.
And that's why he says that's why he says it's hard for a rich man, to enter the kingdom of God, because it's hard for a rich man to realize his riches have no value.
Have no value at all. Right.
Absolutely none. That retirement fund you got for a Christian has no value.
That's right. It may help you pay bills somewhere down the road, but ultimately you're not going to take it to heaven with you.
No.
It's going to have no bearing on how you get to heaven. And it's going to have no bearing on what's on a crown or not on a crown.
Yeah. And even all the things you saved up, you have no guarantee that you're going to have them tomorrow. Because there's nothing on this earth that has any value.
Exactly right. Except knowing Him.
Exactly.
Except pursuing a relationship with Him. Except those things and pursuing to know God. That's it.
Yeah. You think about it. His promise to provide for us. That's the only security you have for tomorrow.
That sets up next week really well.
Huh?
So that sets up
Yep.
next week really well.
Yep. So anyway,
Well, thank you for your comments again, and please continue to send your comments in, and allow us to just to read those and allow us to. It gives us an opportunity for us, basically to, just to comment on what you're thinking, and just to keep the banter going. And
Yes.
we love that, and we love this form, this medium of being able to do this, and please continue to invite your friends to listen and to be a part of this with us as well.
appreciate everybody letting us ramble today and have no particular direction and just enjoy God and
All right.
Hang
Good
out.
coffee, yeah. All right. Well, have a good day.